So here we go with unit meeting activity, Macrame Masters. This is in the Express Myself theme, and macrame is the art of knotting different pieces of twine or string or rope together. Even you can do it with wire to make a new article. It's actually from seafaring traditions around netting, often used by English and North American sailors, European North American sailors in the 1800s. This piece of macrame is one that I've prepared as a demonstration piece. The actual UMA suggests that you create balloon nets to catch balloons in. It's part of a fishing game, but because we're meeting remotely at the moment, this one has a ramekin in it, which currently holds the rat, but you could also hold a battery-powered tea light, a little plant. It's actually quite strong. Included in envelope 2, which has gone out to first Chalford guides, but it's for the benefit of anybody else that's watching and wants to do this, you will need about 6 metres of thread, twine, string, wire. Because our guide unit at the minute is working through what we got in the cupboard, we are going to use embroidery thread because we happen to have a lot of that. You'll also need a safety pin. In our case, you'll need a bead, but that isn't essential, and you'll need a pair of scissors. And you'll need the instructions. So the first thing you need to do is with your piece of string, which is one long length of 6 metres, you need to split this into 6 equal lengths of thread. Now do this carefully, entirely unlike I've currently done it, because lots of thread, generally in my experience, ends up in one large knot. So when you've got your 6 threads, there we go, in your knot, you then, in your hank of thread, you then fold it in half, like so. And this is the point where you thread the bead on so that it sits in the middle, and this helps weight the top end of the thread down while you're working on it, so it doesn't wander off without you, and it also helps hold it in position when you've finished. So fold it in half, so it is exactly in half, and all the way up to there, and then, everyone likes a good knotting guiding, put a double overhang hand knot imprisoning your bead at that top end. Got that? Right. Next up, you need to cut each of these loops at the knot bead end. Here we go. Do you like my nicely perched up phone stand? It's currently made out of 2 bean tins and a tin of tuna. So you need to split your length of thread into 2s. So you take 2 and then also 2 and then another 2 like that, all the way across. So you end up with a kind of spiral effect, well, a fan effect, I guess. Okay, easiest peasiest knot in the history of guiding. You do a very simple, I'll probably call it an overhand. It's a knot anyway. You take the piece of thread with 2 threads in round each other, and you form a knot like that. And you do that all the way across. So you go over, underneath, and you try and keep them roughly level. Okay, so when you've been along and each pair of threads has got a single knot in it, you then need to open each pair of threads so that one of them joins their neighbour. So for example, with these 2, leave that, just that one, we'll come back to that one in a minute. You open these 2 and you tie another one of those little knots in it again. Thumb knots, that's the name of them. Like so. Then you go to the next one along and you do exactly the same. You open those two. You tie in your little knot like that, and tight. Try again to keep this new row, second row of knots level in the same way you were keeping the first row of knots level. So you go all the way along from left to right. So when you've repaired all of those original threads, you end up with one on each side that is on their own. Now, because we don't like anything to be left on its own in guides, you join this one on the left and this one on the right together, just like the others, and you tie a thumb knot in there. This is the point that you are most likely to get in a bit of a muddle, and just trust me, because this feels a bit weird, but what you end up with is an opening little basket, kind of, made of thread. Jolly good, you think to yourself, what do I do now? Because I can't go and hang anything with anything with just two knots on it. No. The next thing is you follow exactly the same pattern. Where you have a pair of threads, you separate the threads and you tie the next knot in the two that are next door to each other. Exactly the same as before. You go to the next one as you go round like that and do exactly the same job of tying a little thumb knot to hold each two pieces of thread, the new pair of thread, together. This is going to be where you're going to have to really concentrate to make sure that you're picking up the threads that are next door to each other as you go. How do you pick out if the next two threads are due to be joined? If you run your thumbs up to the first thumb knot as you come along, the next two should be joined, these two should be joined at the knot above. And that's how you know that the next thing you do is your fourth knot, joining them back together again. I think we will run a fourth set all the way round. Check, so there's two there and they join to one, so therefore they need to have another one, and it makes a kind of useful little diamond shape that helps guide you as to how you're doing. So then you end up with a diamond shape with all of those joined like so. Go all the way around. Okay, when you've done as many rows as you wish to, I've done 4. You could do quite a lot more because there's quite a lot more thread underneath, but 4's probably the minimum. You will probably find it easier with 5 or 6. You can then open it up like that, and you see how those create that piece of mesh, like so, with the bead at the bottom providing a bit of weight. So I'm going to put something in there. I've got a mug. It's only a little one, but it's quite a precious mug, so I'm going to hang it. You sit the base of it more or less in the middle, more or less on top of that bead, and you pull each of your 6 threads up. And as you can see, the mug is then suspended in midair by your artwork. Cunning, eh? So you could use a little glass jar and put a battery-powered tea light in. I wouldn't put candle tea light, obviously, because you don't want to set your threads on fire. You could hang a flower or a plant in there. It's actually quite strong, even though it's only using embroidery thread. Anyhow, give it a go, and maybe when we get back to guides, we'll also play the balloon catching game.